What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical average American here today to react and learn about the cost of living in London. I do not even want to think about how expensive I anticipate the cost of living in London is. The only frame of reference I have for this is kind of the anecdotal, like things I've heard about. Well, I guess I would relate living in London to maybe New York City in America or LA in America. And personally, I don't live in a major city. I don't think that's for me. I think it's really fun to visit those places, New York City, London, really cool places. I don't know if I'd want to live there, and part of that is the cost. I feel like I'm just going to throw out some ideas. Well, you know what? I don't need to throw out ideas. Why don't I just Google it? I would think rent in New York City you could be like $5,000 a month to rent a tiny apartment. $8,000 a month? I don't know. Average rent in New York City. I'm not going to look up London just yet because I don't want to spoil the surprise. How much does it cost to live in New York City? Average of 3,000 to 7,000 for a four bedroom. Four bedroom? Who needs that? Come on. We can have a 20 foot by 20 foot little $4,000 dollar little apartment, right? Anyway, when you're trying to live in a place as in demand as London, you're probably willing to put up with like whatever accommodation you can get. Anyway, this individual here has all the information, hopefully, that I'm looking for on the cost of living in London, and not just rent, but probably everything that goes into living. So let's check it out.
Today, I want to tell you all about how much the privilege of living in London really costs. Whether you've come here hoping to move to the British capital or you're just curious, no shame in that, you have come to the right place. I'm going to start breaking it down by talking about my rent, which is the biggest expense that you're going to have. When I moved back to London 1.5 years ago, I did what most people my age tend to do. I went onto a website called Spare Room, where you can find flatmates and different houses and flats.
Oh, yeah, that's a thing, isn't it? Gosh, this just shows how far my mindset is is removed from living in like a major city. You can like find strangers to live with in major cities to split rent because it's so expensive and hard to get places. That's like the plot of lots of sitcoms, right?
And I did just that. I found 3 housemates, and together we rented a place in the London Borough of Southwark, which is in southeast London, and we rented a 4-bed house. We are in zone 2, which means we're quite close to central London. We have the overground nearby and loads of space. Now, we're no longer straight out of uni, so we're happy to splash out a little bit more than we might have been in the past. So my rent comes to £800 a month. To give you a bit of
Oh, wow. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. What the heck?
an idea what different kind of money brackets can get you, I've pulled a few examples. This first flat is in zone 2, so relatively central, and you can get this room for £475 a month with bills included. Next up is this more spacious 2-bed house in Stratford for £750. It's a bit further out, but it's an up-and-coming area, very well connected.
You get the whole 2-bed house rented for $750? Really? I'm like shocked here. I didn't expect this. I'm gonna ask Google. I don't know what's going on here. Average rent in London. Let's see. I'm honestly much more willing to just trust this YouTube video I'm watching because she's actually lived this. She's renting it, like, so she knows what she's talking about. So I'm honestly just curious what Google thinks. Average rents in London, 900, 1,000, 800. Man, I was so far off. Is New York City just a lot more expensive? That was my baseline. I was like, London, like hub of England, UK, and New York, kind of hub of United States. But the rent is like triple or sometimes 8 or 9 times higher in New York City. What's up with that?
It has the Olympic Park nearby and the Westville Shopping Center. This third one is a studio in Peckham. It's in Zone 2 and close to an overground station, but you can see that living alone is expensive at £1,000 per month.
That's not bad. Like, that's a lot of money, but for living alone, you're not sharing it with anybody, and you're in London. You're in London, for crying out loud. And these pictures look pretty nice, to be honest. Like, these aren't... In New York City, it's like famous that you're gonna get like this tiny... You're gonna live in a closet, basically. You're gonna pay $10,000 a month, and you're gonna live in a closet, and you're gonna like it. But here, we have like these beautiful interiors, $800 a month.
And the place is really quite tiny. Final example.
Okay. To be fair, well, honestly, some of these pictures, maybe they're designed to give you a different perspective, but this picture here looks like decent. This one's like, I guess is the bedroom connected? That's what it is. I thought these were all different rooms. It's all the same room. Okay.
At £1,000 per month, and the place is
Yeah, I thought these were all different rooms. Okay.
really quite tiny. Final example, here's what paying £1,841 per month could get you. It's a really beautiful modern house, but considering how much you're paying, you don't get a huge amount of space.
That honestly looks really nice, though.
Beautiful modern house, but
Yeah, 1800 is finally getting into the realm of like, okay, that is expensive.
considering how much you're paying, you don't get a huge amount of space. So that's it, £800 on rent, bearing in mind that you can pay a lot less and definitely a lot more. Next up, let's move on to bills and utilities. Number one, you've got water, which comes to about £10 a month. Then you've got gas and electricity, that's about £10 a month as well. And then finally, you've got internet. For us, we pay £44 a month for fiber optic Virgin Internet. This next expense is very UK and London specific, and that is council tax. Council tax is money you pay to your local council. I know, right?
Council tax. I don't even know what a council is. Is that, like part of the local government or something?
In order to provide vital services like taking out the bins and funding libraries, keeping the streets nice and tidy. On the government website, if you type in your address, you will be able to see how much you pay and also how much other people on your street pay, and this depends on the value of the property. Another very British custom is paying for a TV license. Anyone that owns a TV in the entire land has to pay this fee, and the fee...
A TV license. Now I'm just learning about stuff... like stuff in Britain I didn't know existed. TV license? What if you have an unlicensed TV? What's gonna happen? The TV police gonna come for you?
Fee comes to £159 a year, which I think is pretty steep. And finally, the one thing that we pay for here at home that is a bit of a luxury, we have a cleaner that comes in every fortnight. Although that sounds like a really indulgent thing, it comes to £25 per person per month. So to me, that is totally worth it.
You know, yeah, I've never hired a cleaner before. I guess I would have thought it would be more expensive. Well, they split it, huh? They split it between 4 people, so it's like $100 a month? Yeah, that's what I would think. Yeah, $25 a month to have someone come in and clean everything? That's tempting. It's a luxury, but that is tempting.
But there are financial benefits to living in the UK as well. Chief among them, the NHS. You don't have to pay for private healthcare on a monthly basis. The state takes care of it for you. Now, there are things that are taken, things being money here, that are taken out of your paycheck every month. But once that is taken care of, you don't even get the money, so you don't feel like you're parting with it. That's it. You do have to pay extra for dentist appointments and stuff like that. But on the whole, it is very affordable, very well managed, and we love the NHS here.
Wow, that's wild. That is insane. Like, compared to what Americans have to put up with, like the whole health insurance company system of paying a monthly payment to random health insurance companies to have them not cover random costs of your healthcare. I'm not even going to get into all that. I'll just say that this sounds a whole heck of a lot better.
All those expenses come to £95 a month, and don't worry, we are just getting started because our next category is subscriptions. None of these are directly related to living in London, but they are the kinds of expenses that people with a lifestyle that's similar to mine tend to have.
Okay.
Number one, I pay £10 to Voxy. They're my phone provider. I get, I don't even know, 6 gigabytes of internet or something like that. It's a pretty sweet deal. Next up, we've got Lightroom. Now, this is
That actually does sound like a pretty good deal. I'm not familiar with that company.
quite a lot of money. I pay £10 for it on a monthly basis, but I use it to edit my photos for my Instagram, which, by the way, you should totally follow. Epidemic Sound, again, this is very me specific. It is a big library of royalty-free music, which I use
Okay.
on my videos. You probably... Beautiful, isn't it? Worth every penny. Next up, we've got email hosting. Again, very specific to me. I pay £4.60 for this. It's called the Google Suite.
Yeah, I'm actually starting to think that these subscriptions, thought we were going to talk about Netflix or something. These subscriptions are like kind of personal to her as a content creator, if you will.
Next up, we've got two wildly unnecessary ones, but a lot of us probably have them, and that is a Netflix subscription, which in the UK costs £9.99, and then a Spotify subscription, which costs $8.99. These
Yeah.
prices, by the way, vary based on where you are. So, for example, my parents in the Czech Republic pay a lot less money than me. What I'm saying here is, if you have a card and
I think the monthly Netflix subscription and Spotify subscription is low enough, like that it is very similar to that, where it's like $8 or $9 or $10, where I don't really notice it on my bill every month. So it's very similar here.
an address in another country, maybe think about it, okay? I'm not saying, I'm just saying. 3 more left. I've got website hosting, which costs me £7.20 every month. Again, a very me expense. Then we've got iCloud, which I just pay to boost my storage to 200 gigabytes, and that costs me £2.49. And
Oh my gosh. She actually has a lot of subscriptions. They're all like a couple bucks, but this is added up. This is all gonna turn out to be like somewhat of an expense.
finally, something that for me is like a really nice to have that I could drop if I had to is online language classes. I take
Oh, wow.
classes on a website called italki. It is super useful. I've mentioned it in basically all my language videos. I have left a discount link in the description below if you want to check it out. One more that I should mention.
Wow, that's kind of cool. Personal, self-help language, personal growth subscription. I can't relate to that at all.
That I'm not paying for currently, but I hopefully will once we're out of lockdown, is the gym. So I used to go to a local gym that is actually extremely affordable, and it costs £22.99, which is kind of wild, especially in London.
Yeah. Does Britain have Planet Fitness? Because in America, we have Planet Fitness. $10 a month. Their whole model of making money is built on the premise that everyone will sign up, like at New Year's, where they're making a resolution to go to the gym. And they're like, oh, $10 a month. And then nobody shows up and the gym is empty. But it's too annoying to cancel your subscription because you have to go in person. So they just get $10 from everyone forever. It's quite brilliant.
My subscriptions come to £85.27 every month,
Okay.
which frankly isn't great. So maybe doing this video is going to be really good for me. Maybe it's going to force me to reevaluate my budget. In fact, I already am, and I feel terrible. Our next category is travel, and this has obviously been deeply impacted by all the lockdowns we've had over the past year. But on a regular basis, and the life I hope will return to someday, I would buy something called a monthly travel
When was this made? This was made 1 year ago. Okay.
card. I typically get a Zone 1
Oh yeah, a card for the tube, the London Tube.
to someday, I would buy something called a monthly travel card. I typically get a Zone 123 travel card, and that costs £167 and 10 pence. So it is not cheap, and if you do want to less
Wait, is that every month?
Zone 123 travel card, I would buy something called a monthly travel card.
That's every month? To have this travel card? What?
I typically get a Zone 123 travel card, and that costs £167 and 10 pence. So it is not cheap, and if you do want to lessen the burden of traveling on public transport, one thing you can do is stick with buses. Now, it will
I was gonna say, gosh, what really matters is that could almost be a yearly subscription at that price. $160? Is that every month? That's wild, if true. Yeah, I guess that's for using the London Underground. But I was thinking, at that point, you might just want to use the bus. But she's actually mentioning the bus, which I like.
of traveling on public transport, one thing you can do is stick with buses. Now, it will require a lot more time and a lot more patience because they tend to have a fair few delays, but here is the math.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a trade-off. Whether you're willing to sacrifice time and convenience for the extra money. So I guess I get it.
If you travel by bus only, you will pay £4.65 per day, which adds up to £87.60 per month. Now,
Still, 86 bucks a month in taking the bus. I'm guessing a lot of people in London, just like in New York, don't own a car because it's just not practical.
if you have a car, we're moving on to the opposite.
Oh, here we go.
£87.60 per month. Now, if you have a car, we're moving on to the opposite side of the spectrum. That will cost you a lot of money. And I'm not just talking about the upkeep and the insurance and the gas. I'm talking about physically going into central London. We have something called the congestion charge, and it adds up to £15 per day. Our next category
The congestion charge. So, wow. In London, they're charging you for having a car because they want the lowest number of people possible to have a car to reduce congestion and stuff. Congestion charge. And I guess maybe you even need to rent a place to store your car in a parking garage, or maybe if you have a parking lot or driveway. But in a lot of big cities, I know people just don't own a car, which is strange to me, thinking about that, but I don't live in a major city, so I'm not used to just casually getting on a bus or like an underground railway to get to places. But I imagine you'd get used to that pretty quickly.
is a big one: food. Now, I say it's big not because it necessarily needs to cost a lot of money, but because there's so much variability. For example, some people will be very content just getting the basics, cooking at home, and that's it. And that way you can save a ton of money.
Yeah, food. Food is like such a big variable because you can just buy dollar instant like meals, microwave, ovens, stuff, stovetop, dollar things. And if you really were really bent on saving the most money on food, or food can be like the most expensive thing possible if you're going out to nice places to eat. Yeah, it really depends.
But if you're like me, for example, sadly, you might end up spending a lot of money on this. I have put together all of my shopping for the past month. The total sum was £122 and 52 pence, and that's just on groceries.
Oh,
I
okay.
then proceeded to add up my takeaways, and obviously currently I'm not eating out in restaurants.
Oh my gosh, this is the fanciest pizza I've ever seen. What on
Add
earth?
up my takeaways, and obviously
If you're getting these pizzas here, oh my goodness. I imagine the bill for monthly food could be like hundreds of dollars.
currently I'm not eating out in restaurants, but if we weren't in lockdown, I suspect I would be spending even more, because when you go out to a restaurant, you might get a bottle of wine, etc. We all know how it is. I spent £87.70 on takeaways last month, and I
Okay, that's not nearly as bad as I thought. 87. Uh, that's not bad at all. If there's 30 days in a month on average, that's like $3 on eating out a day. So that's not even that bad.
I should point out here that it was February, which is a much shorter month, so I don't even... That brings us to a grand total of £210 and 22 pence for food, which, yeah, is not great.
You know, with it being London and all, and like eating out, or this was made a while back, so she was mostly getting takeout or takeaway, and probably getting more groceries than she normally would. Just spending, what was the total? 210 a month. I feel like that's pretty typical. And for being in London, I feel like this is way, way less than I thought. This is not like embarrassing or anything.
£210 and 22 pence for food, which, yeah, is not great, but it is what it is. When in lockdown, sometimes you just gotta treat yourself. And I do want to point out here that obviously your bill for food can be just so much lower. It could literally be half that if you really, really...
Hey, Aldi. You have Aldi in London? Oh.
Stuck to a budget. Okay, we're going to talk about salaries and how affordable London really is vis-a-vis how much you make in a bit. But before that, I want to finish with my last category, which is just other. They're these random expenses that you have on a monthly basis.
Yes, oh yes, the good old other expense.
They can be clothes, they can be, I don't know, medicine or skincare. The grand total was £76 and 44 pence.
That's not bad. We're talking about like just money spent on yourself, like leisure activities. $76. I feel like this individual, she's like very reasonable in her spending. Like she's making living in London sound so much more affordable than I would have ever thought. I think most Americans would agree with me just because of our impression of, well, again, prices in New York City is what I would have compared this to. And it's just not as comparable as I thought.
For my other spending. Okay, and now the moment we've all been waiting for, the grand total. I don't really want a drum roll for this, but let's have one for dramatic effect. My hands are sweating. I mean, this is gonna be terrible. The grand total is £1,434 and 1 pence.
Okay.
Oh dear. Yeah. Now as a standalone figure that looks...
Yeah, okay. Well, that's certainly not cheap. That's certainly not like a small amount of money. But for living in London, that's the key thing for me here. That's pretty shocking to me. That's shockingly low, compared to what I thought.
Looks scary, but it doesn't really mean much. We need to compare it to a base salary. And in order to do that, I have prepared 3 different salary levels to compare the sum to. Number 1, I want to start with the average London salary. Glassdoor thinks that the average salary in London is £40,732. Let's have a look at how much that leaves us with on a monthly basis after tax. I just typed the numbers in here, and here's our figure, £2,612 every month after tax. And now for the fun bit, let's subtract my monthly spending from this figure. What we are left with is £1,178, which frankly is pretty promising.
That's not that bad. That's not that bad. I feel like going with £40,000 on average is pretty good. I feel like that's actually pretty similar to the average wage of like someone living in the United States. It's around $40,000 or pounds, I actually think. So I'm glad she went with that number. So you end up saving like $1,000 a month while getting to live in London. Not bad.
That to me doesn't look bad at all. You still have plenty left over for savings, which I think is something that's very, very important. You always want to have an emergency fund in case the world goes bonkers like it just did. But there are many, many, many people in London working for minimum wage. The London living wage at the moment is £10.85. Let's say we times that by 35, which can be the average work week for somebody who is working on that wage. We get to a grand total of £19,747 per year. This annual salary will leave us with £1,422 per month after tax. Let's take my spending figure and subtract it. And look what we're left with. We're left with a deficit of £12 and 3 pence.
Okay, that's a good point. I like this. So if you're earning minimum wage in London, which I'm sure lots of people are, you couldn't live her lifestyle. It'd be impossible. But apparently there's some cheaper options as far as living in London. She's living, like, her place looks pretty nice, to be honest. You could have more roommates to get rent down, live in just a worse place, somewhere cheaper. Certainly could get less food. Half of her subscriptions, like, most people wouldn't even get. You don't have to have Netflix or Spotify, so yeah, you could make it work and live in London on minimum wage. It'd just be tough. It'd be very tough.
Now, of course, if that was your annual salary, you would adjust your spending habits and you would cut out a lot of the luxuries. However, let's bear in mind the fact that I am single and I don't have children. There are so many single parents out there who do have to make this money stretch, not just for themselves, but for other people that they are supporting.
True. That's actually such a good point. That's such a good point. A lot of people are going to have families, paying for children, food, all sorts of stuff. That changes everything.
So, yes, it can be difficult to live in London. For our final salary scenario, let's look at a different source. Here they listed the average salary for women aged 22 to 29, which is the bracket I fall into. Based on this scenario, we would go home with £1,704 every month after tax, and when we subtract my spending, we are left with £269 and 97 pence. There are a lot of people in London in their late 20s, early 30s that are covering their bills every month, but struggling to save money.
Yeah, that's the takeaway I'm getting here is once you bring the average salaries into here, I still say compared to New York, all of this relatively is a lot lower priced than I thought. But when you factor in the average like salary of people in London and the reality of minimum wage and all that stuff, you can survive in London, but you're living month to month, which is very hard. You're covering your bills every month, but not getting to save that much. So it's a trade-off. Like, you're living in London, which is incredible, but there's a big price to pay.
So that is definitely something to bear in mind if you are thinking of moving to London. Another thing to bear in mind is that, yes, renting can seem affordable, but buying is damn near impossible for anyone our age, which makes us very different from the previous generation. And there you have it. This is how much living in London costs me on a monthly basis. Obviously, these figures will vary month to month. If you have any other questions about living in London, do let me know and I might make a video answering them.
Okay. I enjoyed this. This really changed my perspective on price and costs and living expenses in London, to be honest. This was by Girl vs. Globe, and I liked it. I really did. Good information. I am curious what some of the comments say here, just about all this. The common people talking about this. What do they say? Successful people don't become that way overnight. Most people you see at a glance wealth, a great career purpose is the result of hard work. I'm not sure what we're talking about here. Maybe just people living in London. Been in London for 5 years. You can afford to live here if you hustle and are willing to work. Yes. I was like, oh, I could definitely live in London if I was smart about money. But then he just kept going with the bills, and now I'm in debt from watching this video. Yeah. But compared to her lifestyle, there was some wiggle room there just to like live cheaper than she is. Oh. I'm surprised to learn how low the minimum wage is in London. True, $10, £10 an hour. Makes it very tough. Oh, I lived in London for a year. Close to the Arkway tube station and found a great deal for a room costing £700. 700 euros? With all bills included. Yeah, that's insane to me. That's crazy that that's possible. 700, 800 a month? I never knew. But that's just my impression of London. Like, I thought it was very, very, would be, she said, like, purchasing a home in London would be insanely expensive and basically out of the reach of most people. That makes more sense to me. But as far as renting goes, not as bad as I thought. So I don't know if this video was actually like representative of like actual rent prices in all of London or what. This is just like one anecdotal experience here. But based on this, not bad. It's doable, which surprised me because I know in a lot of big cities in the United States, it's like crazy expensive, like mind-boggling. Tiny apartments for 5,000 bucks a month kind of stuff. So this was an interesting comparison for me. Very interesting. Pretty good. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this reaction, feel free to give it a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Britain, the UK, stuff in the UK, UK culture, things I've never seen before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.